For 300,000 years, the most valuable resource on planet Earth was the human brain. It was the engine of survival. We built the pyramids, we wrote the symphonies, we decoded the atom, and we constructed the global economy. The entire structure of our civilization, capitalism, democracy, the family unit, is built on a single fragile assumption: that a human being is useful, that your time has value, that your labor is scarce. But what happens when that assumption breaks? Not in 50 years, not in a century, but in 2027? We are standing on the edge of the greatest economic dislocation in history. And most people are still arguing about inflation or interest rates. They are arguing about the weather while an asteroid is visible in the sky. Historian Yuval Noah Harari gave us a name for what is coming. He didn't call it the working class or the ruling class. He called it the useless class. He warned that in the 21st century, artificial intelligence wouldn't just make us unemployed, it would make us unemployable. And the difference is terrifying. Unemployed means the economy needs you, but you can't find a job right now. Unemployable means the economy does not need you at all. It means you have nothing to offer that an algorithm cannot do faster, cheaper, and better. To understand the gravity of this, look at the horse. In the early 1900s, the horse was essential to the economy. It pulled plows, it carried goods, it transported people. Then came the combustion engine, the car, the tractor. The horse didn't get a new job. It didn't retrain to become a mechanic. It became irrelevant. The population of working horses collapsed, not because they were lazy, but because they were obsolete. In 2027, the human being is the horse. The first wave of this collapse will not be the truck drivers. It will be the white-collar middle class, the people who followed the rules, the people who went to university, took on student debt, and got the safe corporate job. Consider the junior coder. For 20 years, learn to code was the golden ticket to the middle class. Today, an AI like Devin or GitHub Copilot can write more clean code in 10 seconds than a junior developer can write in a week. Why would a company hire a graduate for $80,000 a year when a software subscription costs $20 a month? Consider the paralegal, reviewing thousands of documents for a lawsuit used to take a team of humans weeks. An AI can do it in minutes, flagging inconsistencies with higher accuracy. Consider the graphic designer, the accountant, the middle manager. These jobs are essentially information processing. And humans are slow biological information processors. We need coffee, we get sick, we get distracted, we have emotional problems. By 2027, the compute power of AI models is expected to surpass the cognitive output of a human expert in 99% of economically viable tasks. When that happens, the value of human labor goes to zero. The corporate boards know this. They are legally obligated to maximize profit. If they can replace 50% of their workforce and increase margins, they must do it. It is not personal. It is mathematical. But the crisis isn't just economic, it is psychological. Work provides more than money. It provides meaning. It provides community. It provides a reason to get out of bed in the morning. If you take away a man's ability to provide for his family, you take away his dignity. What happens to a society where 40% of the population has nowhere to go on Monday morning? We are talking about a crisis of identity on a scale we have never seen. A generation of zero marginal product citizens. This is the useless class. And if history teaches us anything, it is that when a large group of young men have no economic prospects and no purpose, they burn the system down. The elites know this. They have modeled the riots. They have simulated the social unrest. And that is why they are rushing to implement a solution. They aren't building the solution to save you. They are building it to manage you. They call it universal basic income. But as we will see, it is not a gift. It is a containment strategy. To understand the trap that's being set, you first have to understand why our current economic system is doomed to fail. We're on the verge of entering a phase that some economists call the deflationary black hole. You see, our entire global economy, capitalism as we know it, is built on a beautiful, simple cycle. It's a loop. You work for a company, and that company pays you a wage. You take that wage, you go to the store, and you buy things. Your consumption creates profit for the company. The company then uses that profit to expand and hire more people. It's a fantastic engine that has lifted billions out of poverty. But AI breaks this engine. It shatters the critical link between production and consumption. Think about it. If a corporation replaces 10,000 employees with a single, powerful server farm, its costs plummet to near zero. Its efficiency skyrockets. They can now produce infinite digital goods or incredibly cheap physical goods through robotic manufacturing. But here's the billion-dollar question. Who buys the product? Robots don't buy iPhones. Algorithms don't wear Nikes. A server farm doesn't need a mortgage. It doesn't go on vacation, and it certainly doesn't buy a car. When you remove the worker from the equation, you also remove the consumer. This creates a terrifying paradox. We're heading towards a world of what you could call infinite supply, endless cheap goods, services, and content, but at the same time, zero demand. If wages fall to zero because human labor is no longer valuable, then even a loaf of bread that costs just $1 becomes infinitely expensive to a person with no income. Then there's the problem of the state. How do governments function? They run on taxes, specifically income tax and payroll tax. In a country like the United States, individual income taxes make up roughly half of all federal revenue. But robots don't pay income tax. Software doesn't contribute to Social Security. As corporations inevitably fire humans and replace them with AI, the tax base of entire nations will evaporate. The government will find itself staring down a wall of unfunded liabilities. They still have to pay for the military, for roads, for bridges, for existing pensions and social programs. But the money flowing in from the workers, the lifeblood of the system, will have stopped. So the government faces a double nightmare, a population that is increasingly jobless and unable to afford basic necessities, and a treasury that is empty because there are no taxpayers left to fill it. This is why the deflationary black hole is so incredibly dangerous. In a deflationary spiral, prices fall, which sounds good, but it means the economy shrinks. Debts become much harder to pay back. A national debt of $38 trillion becomes an impossible burden to service. The entire financial system, which is built on the assumption of constant growth and a little bit of inflation, begins to implode. So what's the solution? When backed into a corner, what can they do? The government has only one tool left in its toolbox: the printing press. By 2026 or 2027, as unemployment numbers climb to 15%, then 20%, then a staggering 30%, the government will have no choice. They absolutely cannot let the system collapse. They cannot let what some are already calling the useless class starve in the streets, because starving people create chaos. They create revolutions. They will have to print money, trillions and trillions of dollars, and hand it directly to the people. Now, this isn't socialism. Socialism is when the workers own the means of production. This is something entirely new. You could call it subscription feudalism. Here's how it will work. The owners of the AI, the tech giants, the billionaires, will keep all the profits from their automated empires. They will pay a special tax to the government. And the government will then redistribute a tiny fraction of that immense wealth back to the masses. It'll be just enough to keep you alive, just enough to keep you from rioting, and, most importantly, just enough to keep you buying the products that the robots are making. It's a way to keep the economic cycle going, but artificially. The government gives you money, you immediately hand it back to Amazon and Google, and then Amazon and Google pay their taxes to the government. You become nothing more than a pass-through entity in their closed loop, a conduit for cash. Now, they won't sell this to you as a desperate measure to prevent societal collapse. Of course not. They will sell it as a utopia. The marketing campaign will be brilliant. They'll call it the freedom dividend or the citizen's stipend. They will tell you that work was a curse, a relic of a bygone era. They'll say, humanity is finally free. You don't have to toil in a cubicle anymore. You can be a poet. You can paint. You can finally spend quality time with your children. The machines will pay for everything. It will sound like the Garden of Eden. And for the first 6 months, it might even feel like it. Free money landing in your account every month. No alarm clocks, no stressful commute. But there is a fundamental, unbreakable rule of economics. If you are not paying for the product, you are the product. And if you are receiving money for doing nothing, you are not a citizen with rights. You are a dependent with privileges. And privileges, unlike rights, can be revoked at any time. The money they give you won't be physical cash. They can't just mail out trillions of dollars in paper bills. That would lead to chaos and they would lose control. They need to control where that money goes. They need to ensure it flows directly back into the corporate system, not into assets that might give you true freedom, like gold, land, or Bitcoin. So this universal basic income will not be issued in dollars or euros or yen. It will be issued in the new Central Bank Digital Currency, or CBDC. And that is where the trap snaps shut. We've established that universal basic income, or UBI, is pretty much inevitable, but the form it takes is what really matters. See, if the government just started giving you $2,000 a month in cash or even gold, that would be incredibly liberating. You could save it, you could buy a piece of land, you could unplug from the system and build an independent life. But that's the last thing they want. They need you in the system. They need you dependent on it. And that's why UBI won't be cash. It'll be delivered through a central bank digital currency, a CBDC. This isn't just digital money, it's programmable money. It's not a static store of value like cash or gold. It's a piece of software code that the issuer, the government, or central bank can rewrite in real time. This completely changes the fundamental nature of wealth. We usually think of money as two things, a store of value and a medium of exchange. But this programmable UBI is neither. It's essentially a voucher. Think about a Starbucks gift card. You can only spend it at Starbucks. You can't take that gift card and go pay your mortgage with it. Now, imagine that same concept applied to your entire financial life. This is the digital cage, and it has three main walls. The first wall is the expiration date. Economists have a fancy term for this: demurrage. It just means money that loses value over time. Picture this. We're in a deflationary depression. The economy is struggling. People are scared. When they get their UBI payment, their first instinct is going to be to save it, to hoard it for a rainy day. But the government needs what they call velocity. They need you to spend to keep the economic engine churning. So the code in your digital wallet will dictate this $2,000 credit must be spent within 30 days. If it's not spent, it returns to the Treasury. This forces you to live hand to mouth. It makes saving impossible. It destroys your ability to build generational wealth. You just become a conduit for capital, a pipe that money flows through but never stays in. You're on a treadmill that you can never ever get off. And this isn't some far-off fantasy. We've already seen this piloted in China. Their digital yuan has been tested with expiration dates, specifically to stimulate local economies. And you know what? It works. People rush out and buy things they don't even need, just to use up their credits before they disappear. It creates this frantic consumption-based existence where long-term planning is a luxury you can't afford. The second wall of the cage is conditionality. This is the ultimate tool for social engineering. Because the money is just code, the government can embed its policy goals directly into your wallet. Let's take the green agenda as an example. By 2030, nearly every nation on Earth has signed on to strict carbon reduction goals. How do they actually achieve them? By rationing consumption. Imagine you go to the grocery store to buy a steak. You tap your phone to pay. The terminal flashes red. Transaction declined. It's not because you don't have the money. You have your full UBI balance, but your UBI is coded green. You've exceeded your personal carbon allowance for the week. The code then nudges you, maybe with a friendly pop-up, to buy the plant-based alternative instead. Or let's say you try to buy a plane ticket. Declined. Your geo-fenced UBI is restricted to a 50-mile radius of your home to reduce travel emissions. This is already happening. In Brazil, the Drex pilot program, which is linked to their welfare payments, has built-in functions to restrict what the money can be spent on. In the UK, major banks are already tracking the carbon footprint of their customers' transactions. The infrastructure is being laid right now. This isn't a wild conspiracy theory. It's just behavioral economics in practice. They call it the nudge. They don't have to ban meat or air travel. They just make your free money incompatible with it. You're gently, digitally guided into compliance. And that brings us to the third and most chilling wall, compliance. Remember back in 2022 when the Canadian government froze the bank accounts of the truckers who were protesting? That was a powerful move, but it was clumsy. It required emergency orders and phone calls to banks. It was a messy, manual process. With UBI on a CBDC, dissent becomes financially impossible, instantly. To get your UBI, you'll first need a digital ID. You'll have to link your biometric data, your face, your fingerprint, your iris scan, and of course, you'll have to agree to the community standards. So what happens if you attend a protest the government doesn't like? Your UBI is paused for investigation. What if you post something online that's flagged as misinformation? Your UBI gets docked, just like a speeding ticket. You're no longer a citizen, you're a ward of the state. It's a return to feudalism, but with Wi-Fi. In the Middle Ages, the serf worked the lord's land. In return, he got food and a roof over his head, but he owned nothing and he could never leave. In this new era, the so-called useless class will be the digital serfs. They'll be fed, entertained, and kept safe, but only as long as they obey the algorithm. And here's the most sinister part of all: you won't be able to refuse it. When the labor market truly collapses, when AI and automation have taken millions of jobs, you'll be desperate. Your savings will be gone. Your mortgage will be overdue. Your family will be hungry. And then a notification will pop up on your phone. Your relief payment is ready. Click here to accept. And you will click it. You won't even read the terms and conditions. You'll just click. You will walk into that digital cage and you will close the door right behind you. History is filled with conquests. But they're usually noisy, right? Cannons firing, swords clashing, flags being raised. This conquest, however, is silent. It happens with a software update. It happens in the terms of service that nobody ever reads. And I believe the introduction of a universal basic income, or UBI, around 2027 will mark the end of the free market labor system that has powered our world since the Industrial Revolution. This isn't just an economic shift. It will functionally divide the human race into two distinct species. Now, that might sound like hyperbole, but this is the inevitable result of the economic split we're watching unfold. First, you have Species 1, the sovereigns. These are the owners, the people who own the AI, the robots, the code, the land, and the hard assets. Their income doesn't come from a paycheck. It comes from equity. They aren't dependent on the state for their daily bread. They have real freedom. They can travel. They can speak their minds. They are the masters of this new world. Then you have Species 2, the dependents. This is what some have called the useless class. The people who live on a digital allowance, they own nothing. They rent their tiny pods, they lease their devices, they eat subsidized food. They might even be happy, sedated by an infinite stream of personalized, AI-generated entertainment on their screens. But they are not free. They are, for all intents and purposes, pets. Yuval Noah Harari warned us about this. He said the great problem of the 20th century was exploitation, the boss taking advantage of the worker. But the great problem of the 21st century is irrelevance. Think about it. If you're exploited, you still have power. You can form a union, you can go on strike, you can shut down the factory, the system needs you. But if you're irrelevant, you have no power. If you go on strike, who cares? The robots keep working, the AI keeps coding, you're just screaming into the void. So what do? This is, without a doubt, the most important question of your life. And the timeline is short. We have maybe 24 to 36 months before the AI displacement begins in earnest, before the real panic sets in, before the UBI rollout is presented as the only solution. You're currently living in what I call the twilight of the middle class. The old rules: go to school, get a degree, get a steady job, retire with a pension. That playbook is dead. If you follow that path now, you are walking straight off a cliff. You must strive to become species one. You must refuse to become irrelevant. This means you need to fundamentally change your relationship with money and value. You can no longer rely on selling your time because AI is driving the value of human time towards zero. So what does that mean in practical terms? It means you must acquire assets. Specifically, you need assets that cannot be printed by a central bank and cannot be programmed away by an algorithm. First, you need physical gold and silver. These are the only financial assets on Earth that are not simultaneously someone else's liability. They have survived every empire, every currency collapse, every single crisis for 5,000 years. They are your insurance policy against the digital cage. Second, you need Bitcoin. And I mean Bitcoin, not crypto or the latest meme coin. I mean Bitcoin held in self-custody on a cold wallet that you control. It is the only form of digital money that exists outside of state and corporate control. It's the only money they cannot dilute, cannot censor, and cannot turn off with the flip of a switch. It is the currency of the sovereign. Third, you need to look at skills that resist automation. While AI is becoming a master of the cognitive realm, it's still terrible at navigating the chaotic physical world. A robot can write a brilliant legal brief, but it cannot fix a burst pipe in your flooded basement. It can't rewire a 100-year-old building. It can't perform emergency surgery in a field. The so-called blue-collar trades, plumbing, electrical work, construction, farming, these are about to become the new elite professions. These are jobs that require real-time human judgment in the unpredictable physical world. They are the last sanctuary of human value in the labor market. And finally, and this might be the most important part, you need community. The UBI trap is designed to isolate you, to make you interact only with your screen and the state. You need to break out of that. You need to build a parallel economy with your neighbors, barter networks, local food systems, trusted circles, where you can trade real value without using the surveillance tokens of a central bank digital currency. The wealth collapse we talk about on this channel isn't just about stock prices falling. It's about the collapse of the individual. The wealth they are trying to steal isn't just your money. It's your agency. It's your ability to say no. The UBI check is coming. And when it does, it will look like a lifeline in a storm. It will be wrapped in the language of compassion and social justice. But it is a leash. If you take the money, you have to take the rules that come with it. And if you take the rules, you lose your freedom. The future is not set in stone, but the concrete is pouring fast. You have a limited window of time to position yourself on the right side of this great divide. Don't let them buy your birthright for $2,000 a month. The history books of the future will record this moment as the great fork in the road. One path leads to the digital serfdom of the dependent class. The other path leads to sovereignty and survival. Which path are you on? I'm Tom, and this is The Wealth Collapse. Subscribe now to stay ahead of the curve, because when the history books are written, you'll want to be one of the few who saw it coming. Thanks for watching.